AI has just gotten to that level of mainstream where people don't know what AI is still. They don't know how to use it yet, but they're afraid of missing out on it. Business owners, business leaders, professionals, they want to be upskilled with it. Welcome back to This Week at No Code. I'm your host, JJ Englert, here with my co-host, David Pal, and we have another great show for you this week in No Code. But first, we're going to start with the slate of news hot off the press with David.
For all of you out there listening, if you are in the market for any kind of software development needs, check out Studio NoCode. It's our agency that's built on Bubble experts with nearly a decade of experience building all kinds of Bubble apps. Marketplace, social network, payroll company, catering business, data room, ad tech, legal tech. We got a little bit of everything. We've seen it all, and that helps us translate all of our knowledge into your app to build the best product for your customers. We built it professionally, we built it to be secure, and we built it to scale. And we're going to do all these things on time and on budget. So if you are looking for help getting off the ground, getting something to market, or anything in between, give us a call or an email or a carrier pigeon or whatever you want. Studio-nocode.com. We'll probably be there. Let's start with some wearables today. We've talked about these pins and dangles and necklaces and whatever for a few weeks now. We actually kind of talked about MKHB Marquise
And-
Brownlee talking about how tragic the Humane launch was. And basically the team has said, well, we're going to leave. We're done. That's it. We're looking for an acquisition. Humane has announced, well, I don't know how much they have announced, or it has been announced that Humane is on the lookout for a buyer, and somehow believe they're worth $1 billion.
It's
They're looking to sell
unreal.
this thing.
So first off, yes, his review carried a lot of weight, but it wasn't just the review, it was the product itself. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, it was a beautiful looking product, and that's probably all they obsessed with is like the technicalities of how can you fit these microchips and everything into a product of this size, and not actually does this solve a problem. And I think that's where they fell flat. And now they're trying to sell, which I give them a lot of credit to immediately say, oh shit, the last 5 years or whatever of our work is worthless. We want out immediately. Takes a lot of balls. A lot of people would just swallow it and just say, well, let's just keep going because I'm already too deep. I can't get out. These guys are like, nope. But we think we're between 750 million and $1 billion worth at
Yeah.
this point. So you
I
can
mean,
buy
that's
it.
just like ego, that value price. They raised $250 million, $230 million from big investors, most recently valued at $850 million in, I guess, a year ago, 2023. But this was before they tried to launch a product and it failed. And their
Yeah.
CTO left,
Yeah.
right? Remember, they had some people leaving there too. I mean, it's a cool product, but I've seen like open source versions of these you can throw together for like $20.
Right.
I don't know why. I don't know how this gets sold at all.
It's nuts. I think it goes to show that people are just kind of throwing everything at the wall, hoping it sticks these days, and sending a lot of money with it. And this is kind of the first blemish or the failure of that happening at a large scale. And I think a little bit of that bubble might be burst in this wearable market because of such,
Mhm.
and things are probably going to slow down a little bit. So, um, yeah.
All right, let's stay in Silicon Valley for a while. What happened? What happened with Elon Musk?
So XAI raises $6 billion, not a $6 billion valuation. They raised $6 billion at a $24 billion valuation. So this is Elon Musk's AI startup, and that was their Series B funding. If you can get $6 billion in your Series B, that's just absurd. The funding round was supported by prominent investors, including Anderson Horowitz and Sequoia. The investment will be used to bring XAI's first products to market, build advanced infrastructure, and accelerate research and development. You know, Elon has always had this thing where it's like he's been at the very forefront, even with OpenAI. He was part of them initially, and he's always had this thing, but it feels like he was ousted from that, and he still has this vision, still needs to bring all this stuff to life. And it's like, okay, OpenAI, if you're not going to work with me on this, I'm going to go off and do it my own way, kind of like Elon style. And this is
Mhm.
him kind of doing it in a $6 billion way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is petty or this is gonna be great, or I don't really know what's gonna end up coming from this. $6 billion, obviously a lot of money. Crazy how, like, Elon works. You know, usually someone kicks you off the team and you're like, "Ah, I don't wanna play anymore. I'm not gonna play with you."
Yeah.
Oh, they go make their own team. This guy goes and raises $6 billion. Um, just crazy how that goes. But I mean, they're trying to compete with OpenAI. He, seems to have this vendetta against some of the big tech companies and how they're going to use AGI. Really, that's what they're aiming for. They're trying to
Yeah.
get into this AGI world. Um, I, th- you know, I think they have a chance to compete. I really don't think that this
There's
is
a
gonna
lot of
be a
data.
nothing burger. I think they're actually gonna be able to go and build stuff. Like, as the AI world around them is maturing, they don't have to go through, "Oh, what's a GPT?" Like, they don't
Yeah.
need to do that problem. They already know, and they can, with all of this money, take some really fabulous, developers and engineers to actually build these systems. Plus, with everything Elon's doing between self-driving cars and understanding that
SpaceX.
through vision,
Yeah.
like, they already have all of this stuff, uh,
Y-
using the Boring Company to make underground data centers to save on energy. Like, who knows what he's gonna throw together?
what's his one company that with the telepathic stuff?
Neuralink?
Neuralink. I think that is literally the missing piece for everything right now. Like, I was walking around the gym and like I saw something and I was just like, I thought to myself, oh, like save this or do this. And like, I would just love to have my own personal AI understand my thoughts and be able to save it in that way. I'm not going to talk out loud to anything like that. Right. I'm not going to write it down in that way. I just want that neural link to understand that.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I'd rather have, like, a button to press than them drilling into my skull and implanting something, but, like, I
yes, a
serious
button would be a better way to do it, but
I
I'm
guess
saying that kinda
the juice is not worth the
neurologically,
squeeze on that.
like,
Yeah.
teleconnection is that next level. Because like, I'm not gonna really just sit there and talk to that like, some of these things are private and everything, and you can't use it in the public in that way if that's the connection. So, I think Neuralink mixed with, AI and these LLMs and so much more multimodal things in the future could be, like, that next level thing.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of fires
There will be
going.
some crazy wearables, um, I think that are coming. I think we will change how things work. Um,
Like,
it's gonna be drilling into people's heads, but
you gotta
maybe a
imagine
headband
how
and
many, like,
earpiece, something.
startups are in stealth right now of just, like, how many different, hardware AI startups are in stealth or just, like, trying to race to get to launch. I'm sure there's, like, hundreds, maybe
Yeah.
even thousands, and it's just, like, all of a sudden, everyone's gonna reach, like, oh, that 12 to 24 months after, date where the production has arrived, and everyone's just gonna hit us. I think we
Yeah.
just haven't been hit yet with that.
Yeah, well, these are one of those things that, um once we mentioned a video with 20 VC and Sam and Brad
Yeah,
from OpenAI on, and Sam was basically talking about, like, if you're betting on OpenAI to fail, we're going to steamroll you, and if
mm,
you expect our models to get better and better, and you can benefit from that, you can win. And I think hardware is in that latter category where you're actually able to like, as GPT-5 comes out and you can get
yeah,
better multimodality, lower latencies, hardware, like, the hardware becomes more reasonable,
yeah,
right? And so you win when all these billions, the $6 billion that we just talked about, and the many billions around it that are getting poured into research, you just get to benefit from. And that is
yeah.
pretty cool. Pretty, pretty
Pretty
cool.
cool. Yeah, what's going on with Anthropic?
Yeah.
Now, you sent this to me, and it was a long research paper. I didn't get all the way through it
Well,
because
we are supposed to
whew,
be the experts. Uh, Anthropic. Okay, so let's talk about research, right? So
Yeah.
we were talking about these billions of dollars. So, you know, when you think about traditional software companies like Salesforce, I don't know, top of mind right now because their stock price got hit. Salesforce is a development team that just puts out new features, right? Okay, maybe there's some research on some part of it, but like the main product is feature development, right? They take requests, they add new stuff. And it's just like a lot of like work, tickets and answers, right? But in these AI companies, a lot of the effort is actually in research, right? Like they're pushing the frontier of what we think is possible and
Yeah.
how it all comes together. And it's not just, oh, well, I need to add a new button that sends this API call, blah, blah, blah. Like
Yeah.
that's not what they're working on most of the time, even though that's what we see with like Chat GPT Enterprise, all these things, right? Desktop app, whatever.
Yeah.
So Anthropic, what they've done, and it is a long article and it is a bit more technical. They are trying to understand actually what happens in these LLMs,
Because
right?
because researchers don't actually know, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of people don't know that researchers don't actually know what's actually happening right now, which is kind of crazy to think about. But yeah,
Mhm.
researchers don't fully understand how an LLM is working internally and why it's doing everything that it's doing. And so Anthropic kind of was able to map some of this to give more insights.
Yeah. So basically, they've been there's research that's been done for a long time now that's been able to kind of build these like dictionaries of you can imagine how would I describe this? Okay, so you have a board in front of you, and on this board are a million lights, right? And the lights are dimmable, right? Some have brighter than others. You ask a question, and in sequence, these layers of lights will light up, right, at different strengths, and you use that in a few different ways, a few different times over and over to get a response, right? That's kind of the Morse code of this LLM, right?
Yeah.
Like you have these lights and responses that come up. And all of these lights represent concepts or features. That's what they're calling them, right? These are the nodes and the neurons in the LLM. These are features. Like in the example they use, like there is a node for the Golden Gate Bridge, right? There is a node for
Yeah.
like Edgar Allan Poe, right? Like
And
there
yeah,
are these nodes of
things
concepts, right?
related close to that, like the 49ers and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
and then everything near it is
Yeah.
Alcatraz, Girardelli Square. Like you're in San Francisco, it kind of
Yeah.
makes sense, right? So you have this board. What determines what how much these lights light up is a bunch of weights, right?
Mhm.
These are like coefficients. These are like it's all some math, multiplying these things together. There's a bunch of coefficients. Um, that is what happens during training, right? All of these weights are getting assigned um, based on the training data. And what they've learned is they can actually see what these individual lights mean, right? And so they're trying not just seeing that there are lights, they're trying now starting to get labels on some of these lights, right? So now they can understand how some of this works. And if they can put labels on what the lights are, they can now artificially, after training, adjust the weighting on some of these lights to get different responses out
To
of
make
the
it more
LLM,
accurate. And this
right?
is and this is just stuff that with these large language models have never been able to do before.
Yeah, it's a technical challenge to do this at this scale. Like these are like
Yeah.
just such large numbers and processing that all has to happen all at once that you just need so much power to do this and so many different technical tools to investigate and interrogate this data
Yeah.
that needs its own research team just to figure this out. But what this means is that you can actually adjust the performance of these black boxes so that
Mhm.
they can become safer, so that they can behave in different ways in different scenarios.
Mhm.
Right. So when you're thinking about training a GPT or fine tuning a model to act a certain way,
Yeah.
you can turn off certain behaviors or you can turn on certain behaviors and you can actually change the behavior of this model in a more direct way instead of just feeding it more data, right? Which is actually a I think this is really important because we talk about safety, and we'll talk about safety again in a little bit.
And
Like,
accuracy.
this helps you build in safeguards because you can label certain features as harmful and turn down the scale on those to 0, right?
Yeah,
They were talking about how they can avoid sending scam emails by changing certain features on these, because normally it would say no, but under certain conditions, you can, like, influence the model to do it anyway, and you just turn it all the way down to 0, and it just doesn't happen. Right,
yeah,
maybe not happen, but, it goes from a 1% chance to a 0.000001% chance, right? And so it's, I think, really important. Um,
good
Again, this is a
advancement.
huge problem and a huge scale, but if they can productize this in a way that you can do this on any model, I think it will actually push the safety of these models and the behavior, possibly good, also
Yeah,
bad for bad actors, right?
yeah,
Like, a scammer now turns these models up, so it's even more aggressive and even more scammy.
mm,
Uh, but it
yeah,
means that we can control them, which I think
yeah.
is. Now, a quick break for our sponsor of This Week in No Code.
If any of you guys are looking to learn more about Bubble, whether you're a beginner or a professional looking to get certifications and take your skills to the next level, you got to check out No Code Alliance. It's been a personal project of mine for the last 2 to 3 years. I have 5 different courses there, all focusing on Bubble and taking you from zero to pro. And these courses tell you everything you need to know to start earning 6 figures as a Bubble developer. So go to nocodealliance.org, either get started with the beginner course or take our package and go from zero to pro in the next 3 to 6 months, and you won't regret it. That's nocodealliance.org. Back to the show. Yeah, it's not on our next news segment, but I want to bring it up in terms of data and using data to train these models, right? Data is the king. And the more that you have, you can train these large language models, these multimodal models of just to do better things, right? And there's a lot of things going around right now of um, how you are training it, and if you're training it in a ethical way, and if you're also using other people's IP. And so recently, I think it was Google's founder come out and say that OpenAI used YouTube, which was Google's IP, to train their recent algorithm. And I think we're going to continue to see a lot of that and the ethics involved in that. Another AI music startup called, I think it's Suno, recently raised a very large round, like $125 million. But now these old school music companies like Sony and whatnot are looking to kind of come after them for maybe training their models on their backlog of catalog. And it almost feels like a Napster LimeWire kind of
Mhm.
day of like, hey, you get this open source like music, but eventually you never paid for those rights. And so they sue you and then it's taken down kind of thing. Like we're in that world of like the fine lines. We're in the wild west of AI, it feels like. There are there were just so many people kind of crossing the line or not trying to don't know really what the line is. We have states in the United States, like people that are not really technical, coming up with laws to, prohibit AI in some way or to make things happen with AI. One of our recent politicians recently said that we need to tax GPUs because if these GPUs are taken away from jobs that would otherwise pay
Mhm.
taxes, we need to tax the GPUs to then account and to make up for
Payroll
those lost
tax.
taxes, the payroll taxes. And so, like, it is a total Wild West right here, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and another thing that came up recently was OpenAI recently did a deal with Wall Street Journal. I think they're working together for a 5-year deal for $250 million. And each year, OpenAI is, I think, getting around $50 million to use Wall Street Journal's data to train the algorithms on. And in return, also give Wall Street Journal's writers the ability to all the tools to make this content more, effectively for all of the publications.
Yeah, and don't forget they also have this issue with Scarlett Johansson,
That's
who
one of
took
them.
took her voice, the likeness
Yeah,
of her voice, and she, even though she said no when they asked,
yeah,
they did it anyway,
yeah.
and now
And
they're like,
I guess, yeah, I guess the same thing's happening with Suno now, where some of the artists sound like Johnny Cash, like straight up Johnny Cash's
Yep,
voice, and right. And then some other news, CAA, going back to Hollywood, they've come up with like a virtual vault to protect their actors' likeness, right? And so
right.
they're allowing their actors to create AI dupes of themselves, like the image, the likeness, the voices, and whatnot. and allowing and storing all of it in their, their vault there, and allowing them to license out that to commercials, et cetera, that want to use their voice or their image or even like,
Yeah.
everything without the actor even being there anymore, which is also another crazy, like, a thing that we're getting into with all of this likeness stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, we're pushing the frontiers of copyrights and ownership of data um in very quickly. And
Yeah.
the Silicon Valley model is, well, we'll pay the fine when it comes. Right? They'll
And
settle some deal, they'll figure it out. They have a
yeah,
lot of money, and I think they'll get more money if they need money, and it's part of the strategy, right? Like Uber had this playbook. It didn't matter.
yeah.
Uber was illegal. They didn't care.
I Did you catch the recent interview with the board member that departed OpenAI?
I heard pieces of it.
It's so this was, the fallout of last year when Sam was fired. This board member has then left the board and has recently come out and publicly gave her side of it. And she can't
Mhm.
share everything. But essentially what she said is that Sam was lying to them. He was not truthful with them. That they weren't even aware that ChatGPT was launched until they found out about it on Twitter. And
Mhm.
that they just got to a point where they couldn't trust anything he was saying anymore. And a lot of this came with safeties of like, you know, how much safety is actually happening compared to like what he was saying was happening and what that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And what I got from the conversation, and it's a one-sided conversation, it's not fully fair, was that there are definitely skirting safety and regulations in the pursuit for more product releases, and product advancements, which kind of brings us back to the Wild West comment of AI, which we're kind of seeing at the moment.
Yeah, we also saw, that he owned the OpenAI startup fund or something like that. Was there
Yeah,
some drama around that?
yeah. They didn't know that he owned that as well.
Yeah, it's, like, labeled OpenAI, but it's not theirs or
Yeah, so, the Sam, the white knight in shining armor that some people might have thought might not be that as much. Of course, every story has two sides. We haven't fully heard that story. I think there's a lot coming out of this, but I think everyone just needs to generally continue to show caution towards this,
Yeah.
and it's all new stuff that people are trying to figure out for the first time. And, if we move on to our next news segment, maybe our last one, it's Jan joins Anthropic. Is it I can't pronounce the last name. Is it Jan
Leike, Likey? I don't
Likey? So a leading AI researcher and former safety lead at OpenAI
Yeah,
has
we talked
left
about him last week,
OpenAI
yeah,
and joined Anthropic
yeah.
to head a new super alignment team. What do you think about this, David?
I mean, I think this is not so far off for the last news we saw about Anthropic. I think they're building with safety in mind. I wish we could get a straight answer, um,
From
from
who?
OpenAI about what actually is happening and where safety actually matters, right? I think, like, the CTO of Meta was like, "Hey, we don't shouldn't care about safety yet. It can't do anything.
Right.
Like, it's a
It
freaking house
it
cat. What is it?
yeah.
How is it gonna how's it gonna hurt us yet? We can worry about that." I like I mean, there's a part of me that,
But it's
like
advancing so fast that we don't need to worry about it yet, but in 3 to 6 months, maybe we need to, you know,
yeah, but how
and
do we
maybe it's too
know how
late.
those models are gonna perform and how
Sure.
safety may or may not change? I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh,
It's
I
the
think
Wild
we
West.
live in a hype bubble and, we're thinking about AGI and AI being all these things. I still think there's gonna be a whole part of the world and industry and economy that is not touched by AI in a way that, like, we're now out of work forever.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it's just a net benefit, and I'm not so worried about.
Well, we'll continue to keep you informed here on This Week in No Code. So then a little bit of AI, because there's a lot going on. It's moving quickly. It's an exciting time. I don't want to underscore, all the kind of things that are happening and what I just said about, all this like regulation, and everything. I generally everyone's trying to figure out what to do with it. It's just
Yeah,
growing so fast. It is so popular. Like I had a recent experience this week where I spoke to local business owners. And I honestly ignorantly in my own bubble thought that everyone knew what Zapier was at this point. It's just like it's been around for over 10 years. It's a very simple way to connect tools together, right? And no one in the room knew what it was. It was like a brand new concept to it. And I think of Zapier as like one of the shining lights to the no code industry, one of the like the players that has had the most success. And yet, a model, ChatGPT, that was created 10 years later than Zapier has over 100 million users compared to Zapier that has 2 million users.
But
And
you know how many New York Times articles have been written about Zapier?
it's,
0. The same number of that have been written about me, actually. None.
yes, it's just the playing field that AI is on compared to no code, it's not even the same playing field. Like they're not even playing chess when we're playing checkers. They're just playing a game that hasn't even been invented yet. I feel like in terms of like the market size, like all the people that didn't know of Zapier were all using ChatGPT. So I feel like AI has just gotten to that level of mainstream where people don't know what AI is still. They don't know how to use it yet, but they're afraid of missing out on it. Business owners,
Mhm.
business leaders, professionals, they wanna be upskilled with it. They wanna have these latest skills, and that's kind of what leads us into our next segment, which is, kind of a list of, like, 10 ways that you can leverage AI in your business. Whether you're a no-code owner or no-coder, a agency owner, a business operator, there are a lot of ways that you can use AI and no-code together to add benefits to your business, and so Dave and I put together this small list to just kinda show some of the ways that you could do this because there is huge interest. And a lot of people, again, don't know what no code is, but they do know what AI is, and they want to use more of it in their business. And no code is the perfect next step to AI. So it's like, oh, you want AI? Use this no code platform, and it's infused with AI kind of thing. And so there's a beautiful marriage between the two.
Yeah, I think what we were talking about last week, uh, and WeWeb and AI came up, and I do think that no code is a good venue for AI development to run through. Um, I think they will be a good marriage in one way or another, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and it can be used in all different industries, whether you're in sales, operations, HR, etc. You know, the first thing on our list is AI and data management. So data is king, but how do you get this data? You know, a lot of people want to scrape data, and scraping tools has
Mhm.
been around for a long time. But once you actually scrape this data, what do you do with it? How do you qualify it? How do you, organize it? How do you clean it? And there are a lot of good AI tools that help you with cleaning this data and also help you with actually going out and scraping that data. If you look at AI agents, you can put together agents to scrape data and to clean it for you in many different ways. I think Synflow did a little bit of this. I think Zapier is getting into AI agents as well. I'm not sure of any other platforms that are kind of really focused on agents. I think OpenAI is coming out with agents as well to allow you to do this. But AI agents are a good thing to say, like, do you want to spin up like a virtual employee that has a very specific task that can operate, on their own behalf? AI agents is kind of a good way for you to kind of get started with this for whatever business need you may have.
Yeah, I think the agent model and just general AI usage are two kind of different things. I think like in the data model, right? You in data management, for example, right? You don't need an AI agent that's doing things on repeat. Like you can just use AI to help, like, you scrape something from the internet and mistakes happen as
Yeah.
things are coming through. You can still take that text and nonsense, whatever is coming out of the scraper, and say, okay, great, turn this into an email. Hey, oh, can you clean this up? Turn this into bullet points,
Yeah.
summarize this for me, right? And then
Yeah.
turn it into a format using some of these like function calling tools that you fill it into a JSON object properly. Like for example, um, my brother-in-law asked me today, is there a way to scrape Zillow so I can make offers like on the fly, right? And that kind of thing is taking data from a scraper,
Analyzing
looking
it.
at the data that it takes, like number of
Yeah.
bedrooms, number of bathrooms, the description of the house from the agent, going through the photos. You can say, how would I describe what these things are?
Yeah.
And then synthesizing that into a offer. Why do I think I can make this offer? How does it compare to other things I've seen? Right?
It's a good
Scraping,
use case.
processing data with AI. doesn't necessarily need an agent where it's like a call and response, like a reply back and forth, but it is just processing this data into a then next step that you can use, like send a bunch
Yeah.
of emails.
It's to my understanding with agents, in that case, I would have like 3 different ones. The first agent would scrape it, the second one would clean it, and then the third one would qualify it and send you an email if it is like a good match kinda thing. That's what I think of it, but I haven't actually done that, in
I'm
like
not
a real
sure. I'm
app
not sure
yet.
where the line of agent runs out, right? Like where it's just a process that,
Mhm.
an automation that uses AI versus an agent. I always thought like an agent was like somebody calls in real time, you're now responding, and there's like a conversation back and forth. I know those are voice agents and there are also customer
Yeah.
service text agents, but I always kind of assumed that the agent part of it was someone else on the other side, or
It doesn't need to always be real time like that. It's like you can spin up an agent to have a very specific task, and then to spin up another agent to have another part of that task, and the 2 could work together to complete
so
that
they're just
task in
calling an
full.
agent an automation, right?
Yeah,
Just
essentially. Yeah,
some response.
yeah,
Learn
yeah.
something new every day.
Also AI for customer interaction. So and customer service. We've seen this a lot. If you
Yeah.
look at
We saw
Intercom now.
Klarna. Isn't that what we saw them come out with, like, a $40 million savings?
Yeah, them, but also Intercom recently said they are now an AI first company, right? Which is amazing how it just happens overnight that they're an AI first
Yeah.
company. Anyways, they've embedded AI into, automatic outreach of, people that come on their website, AI agents responding to these things, qualifying them, saving the data, all that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of ways that you can integrate AI into just basic customer service stuff. Outside of like chatbots, you can also do it with the voice agents that David was just talking about. You can spin up your own customer representative to answer the calls for you, to book meetings for you. Another thing that SynFlow has is, these virtual agents that you can essentially prompt it to say, you are a receptionist at this company. Here is my calendar that's synced. Answer calls, book things when appropriate, and send in information elsewhere, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so this is becoming available now, in this way, which is, um, really, I think, beneficial for a lot of different use cases, not only customer, calls, but also like outbound calls too, of just like, hey, you have a dentist appointment coming up in 2 days, kind of thing. And so you can send a text or you can send a call, and this can be like a programmatic way to do that as well.
Yeah, I think the big unlock here that we're gonna see a lot more of that kinda happens already, like, I'm sure we've all gotten automated calls, right? Someone calling,
Yeah.
"Hi, this
And you hate
is
it. You hate it.
Doctor blah, blah, blah. I
Yeah.
am here calling for" No. Like, that's the stuff that this very scripted nonsense. The automated calls of, "Hey, you have a doctor's appointment," will be sound more human,
Yeah.
right? Um, it will have intonation, it will have,
You
like,
could
a
probably
voice.
reschedule that appointment on the call with them now.
Yeah, oh, I could reschedule it, I could
Yeah.
ask how early do I need to be, do I need someone to drive me home, like,
Mhm.
you can ask all of these other things, which is helpful. I think
Yeah.
that's, gonna be a cool thing.
I whenever you kinda say stuff like this exists, there is always that job security part of it of just like, "Shoot, did I just lose my job?" And it's like, I don't think we're there yet, like, maybe in the future, like, people do think that there could be jobs lost, right? I don't think we're there yet. We still have to build these things. We still need to use them with caution. We still need to, advise
Mhm.
them. We still need to check in with them, all this kind of stuff. So maybe you can, instead of having a full-time receptionist, you just have kind of like a supervisor that's managing these receptionist agents, and they're also helping you in other business areas as well. So there's there are other ways to think about than just like, oh, you just canceled this job.
Yeah, I think it's, short-sighted to think that the receptionist at the dentist's office, the only thing they do all day is
Right.
sit there and wait for
Answer
a phone
calls.
call.
Yeah,
Like, I
exactly.
think most of the time, that's what people think. They're like, "Oh, you're just here to take my call. Why are you
Mhm.
taking so long to
But they're
answer?"
doing
But they're,
billing
like,
and all this
actually
kind of
doing
stuff.
1,000 things.
Yeah.
And this is like, think about restaurant ordering, right? Like, the person answering that phone is also waiting tables, cleaning up, placing
Right.
orders. Like, they have 1,000 other things they need to. If you can take this one thing off their plate, they can now do the rest better. Good.
Yeah. And if you're an agency owner out there, then it's like, hey, these are opportunities for you to go to your clients and say, hey, we can implement this stuff for you. If you're a business owner out there, these are opportunities for you to either implement yourself or reach out to an agency to have it implemented for you. Like
Yeah.
all this stuff exists today and it's possible and it's small things that you can do to take steps towards using AI for your businesses.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's all right. I'm curious to see. I think we talked about this once before, the use of AI and the pendulum from I think we talked about how early retail was lots of mom and pop stores, right? Like Main Street America was like the shoe store and the clothing
Yeah.
store owned by, your friend's parents, right? And
Yeah.
then it became big box, right? We were going for efficiency, Walmart and Costco and big supermarkets and big chains, and they're rolling things up for more efficiencies and adding things in the middle. These efficiencies now, like at in enough time with enough of these AI implementations, actually make a small business as efficient as a big business. Maybe not on buying power, but there are ways to solve that too. We may start seeing more
More small
small
businesses.
individual folks, right? Like you
Yeah.
can now just have a bookkeeper who's doing 700 individual hairstylists instead of one salon that has to do it, right? Like it just
Yeah.
changes things a little. Um,
We're
I
seeing
think
more
that's
power to the individual than what was normally reserved for that larger corp that had many
yeah.
people.
Yeah, and then the profits still stay with the individual instead of, you know, uh, rolling up to some corporate bigwig who, eventually if you're a billionaire, you've probably exploited some people for some labor at some margin, right? Like there's no way you just make $1 billion magically by not making more money than everyone below you did, right? Like you can't
Yeah,
do it yourself. Someone has to do it for you. And so um that may start swinging in the other direction, right?
yeah.
That an individual person can compete.
Yeah, I got a couple more ways here that you could use no code and AI together. The next one is it's a simple one, automation. I thought this was a lot of people were already doing this, but using a tool like Zapier, you can automate a lot of things. A basic example that I talk to a lot of my students or a lot of my clients is, let's say you have a YouTube presence, YouTube channel, right? And whenever a YouTube channel is published or YouTube video is published to your channel, you can just create a very simple automation with Zapier that essentially says, take that, that trigger that video has been published, grab the subtitles for it, send it to OpenAI,
Mhm.
create a summary of what that video is, and create the key learning points, and then suggest that your team members, one, know about the video, and then share it on their socials, and then send that, message to everyone on Teams or Slack or whatever,
Right.
just in an automated way of just like, hey, new video is available. Here's the TLDR of it. You can use the link to share it to your socials here. Boom. Very simple thing that a lot of people don't think that you're just doing manually or don't know exist. Very simple thing. No code automation really work well together in that.
Yeah, I wish I had more time in the day to do stuff. I would love to just poke around on Zapier with all the new AI stuff and just start building things.
It's really easy and it's really fun. Zapier has this new feature which is essentially just like tell us what you want and we'll just build the whole thing for you kind
Yeah.
of thing. It's getting really easy. It's exciting. Other stuff that we have is AI for document analysis. So we have things like Ask PDF and Ask CSV. So if you have these documents, these PDFs or these CSV files, you can upload it to these websites and they store the data locally. So it's not actually going to their servers. So it's safer in that way. And you can ask it things of like, hey, what are the results or the key trends of this data? Or is this legal document? What do I need to worry about? And of course, there's legalities. They're not your lawyer and stuff like that, but it could take a 12-page rental contract and make it more digestible to the average person so they are more aware of what they're getting into before they sign that contract and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff, in the contracting world, whether it's leases or contracts and business agreements or NDAs or any of these things that need to be reviewed.
And
I
you're not
think
going to get a
whenever
lawyer
you're
to do
reading a
it
contract, the disclaimer,
mostly.
whenever you're signing a contract, you probably should read it yourself, read the whole thing,
And maybe have a
or
lawyer involved if you
ask a
can
lawyer
afford it.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but being able to take lots of documents off the internet which is how people are sharing lots of information, business reports,
Mhm.
10Ks and 10Qs, and all these things coming from the stock market, the public markets. CSVs are great. Like you get data from a. I was talking to my cousin. We're looking at building him something in his building management and event, or not event, rental management platform.
Okay.
And they just every week they get a list of active rentals from the rental companies in a CSV. Where's
Hmm.
it going? What are they paying? How much does it cost? All these things, right? And so we can just take this data and go, okay, great. Each line I need it in a certain format, and I need to
Yeah.
send it over to another document.
Yeah.
Right now, you can ask all these questions.
And I
What's
think this is
happening?
a common thing that like a lot of SMBs have is just like, hey, they have this CSV data. They want to log it in an automated way just to remove that manual labor.
Yeah, yeah, it happens. I mean, my brother, same brother-in-law, works in
He's
accounts.
busy.
Yeah, he's doing lots of stuff. Accounts receivable, and his sales team asks all the time, "Have these things been paid yet?" And he
Yeah.
has to go look it up. But now they could just chat with the CSV, right? Has it
Yeah.
been paid? No.
Yeah. I'm one of my friends is building a bubble app, and it's the bubble app is for sales commissions. Essentially, every month they have a CSV file of all the sales commissions, who earned what, etc. They want to build a simple portal to bring all that data from the CSV into a visualized way to make it easier to manage these commissions, to let people know what the payouts are and all that kind of stuff. Simple.
Yeah,
But
and
we're
I
there
I
now
think
that you can
yeah.
afford to build those custom solutions in an affordable way.
The one caveat I would add to this is in the same reason why, like, if we know how to build things with Bubble, not everything needs to be built with Bubble.
Yep.
Same thing happens with AI. There
Yep.
are other ways to process CSVs that are cheaper and faster and more reliable, right? It's still, AI is still probabilistic, right?
Yeah.
So it can get things wrong, right? There are ways to do this without getting it wrong. And so sometimes it might be helpful to ask, do I need AI for this? Or can
Yeah.
I just do it traditionally? But
Hmm.
not every asking PDFs for summaries is not a thing you would do without AI,
Yeah.
for example.
Agree. I guess I got two more here. We have AI app driven or AI app creation. So we're seeing a lot of folks now, software being one of them, where you can just essentially have a data source and it'll create an app around that data source for you. Or we have, within the app, you can use, prompts to create things within the app. So AI, I think for the no coders out there or the developers out there, they can already see that this is allowing them to build faster. And for the business owners out there, you might not need a developer because the AI will create that app for you. And or maybe the app is now cheaper to build because there's a AI supplement in that building process as well.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot. I mean, we see this also with web design, like
Yep.
prompt to Figma or prompt to wireframe. Uh, that will improve over time. I think there's still like it does something. I think there's a lot more to be done there.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't
Yeah.
know. I still think there are going to be developers in the middle, though. I don't think.
There's always going to be developers.
Yeah, I think an
It's a complex
agency or a
structure.
developer, maybe it's cheaper. You get further faster. I don't think the average business owner, just like you said, talk people don't know Zapier. I don't think the
Yeah.
average business owner is actually also going to be trying to build an app with a prompt because, we both had experience with this. What do you want us to build? I don't know, just like a thing that, like
That's
payroll.
fair.
And
Yeah.
you're like, no, yeah, maybe we need something,
Yeah.
some more details. Um, and that's always a hard part, like to pull out the actual scope and spec. And
Yeah.
especially if you're pushing the edge of what's in the app, AI won't have learned what a good UX is for this experience because it's never been done.
Hey, that's
So,
a good
yeah,
point.
maybe.
With video editing, one thing that we use for this podcast, and I come from the movie industry, I always used Adobe Premiere. Adobe Premiere is doing pretty good, but Descript is another app that I like to use a lot. It has AI capabilities, so it can auto cut for podcasts like this. It can pull, summaries of the content in there. It can add things for you. And so AI in terms of media creation, we're seeing a lot of AI in Canva as well for
Mhm.
photo creation. So AI is really touching every kind of part. And a lot of these everything that we're talking about is no code tools, like even Descript, Canva, software, all these things are no code tools, but they're using AI infused with it to like make the offering even better. And so it's like it's really that perfect marriage of all this coming together. It's a great time
Yeah.
for the no code industry because a lot of people have said that, and I believe it, that no AI is the best chance no code has of succeeding. And I'm really starting to see why is because there's so much hype for AI right now. There's so much demand and visibility for it. And AI no code is just right there, like to implement this AI in many different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. If people don't want to get skipped on the tech, they're not going to be able to add it to their own app that they don't have. They need to start from something.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the AI platforms like Zapier will give frameworks, right? But that's no code, right? Like they will
Yeah.
help make it easy to implement AI. Um,
I think eventually we're gonna see a little bit of a blend of just like code AI and no code all together. And it's all gonna generally just be some kind of AI generation that you can use or use in a no code way, but then also the source code is still available for you as well. It's kind of like a roll up of all these three things. So I think
yeah,
we'll get there in the future. I'm not sure when, but it just makes sense.
yeah. I think. Well, so my I guess almost hot take is I think the no code industry is going to cling on to AI to try ride its wave as hey, we're no code. It's great.
As
I
it
do
should.
think I do think we should distinguish between using a platform like Zapier for AI, and we've called Zapier a no-code platform because we are using it to build systems for ourselves in
Yeah.
our apps. And it is not code. We are replacing code with that. But I don't think using an AI agent in Zapier is the equivalent replacement of code. And I
Hmm.
think we should just be mindful that, like, just because you're using an AI platform to launch agents doesn't mean it's no code because you haven't written a line of code,
Sure.
right? It
Sure.
is not visual programming in the same way. It is
Yeah.
AI agent building.
Any last thoughts before we wrap this show up?
I don't think so.
I don't think so
That's it.
either. I think we've talked a lot about no code and AI, respectively so. We have another guest joining us next week. Otherwise, if you have any thoughts, let us know. You can comment on the YouTube video. You can review us in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Spotify has the video version of this. Apple only has the audio version of this. We're always adjusting. Things are changing fast here. Let us know your thoughts about the podcast. Let us know the topics you like. Let us know the topics you don't like. Where we should continue to go with this. The guests we can bring on. We're evolving here at This Week in No Code, as you should be as well.
Mhm.
And we'll see you next week in No Code to talk about all the latest things. Until then, guys, have a good one.